Okay, I have here a new toy, my new for me, Nikon AF Nikkor 180mm f2.8D ED. This is quite an old lens now, but it's a very good lens. I got it used, but in almost new condition. You can see this is the new kind of Nikon box, so it's a recently manufactured lens, and looking at the serial number, it's been made since 2006. I got it from Ffrodes photographic I think in Inverness, and it cost about £495. In, as I say, nearly new condition. If you wanted it new, it would cost you something around £700. It's currently on at £695 from Warehouse Express, which is a very popular photography camera website in the UK, and probably available at similar prices from other outlets. Now, there are several versions of this lens. There are manual focus versions from the past. There is the original non-ED version. ED is Nikon's extra low dispersion glass, which is special glass to avoid chromatic aberration, especially in long lenses. Once you get above probably about 105 or 135 millimeters, it becomes necessary to have extra low dispersion type glass. Other companies have other names for it. Otherwise you get very powerful effects from chromatic aberration. The very first version of this lens, the AI version from the 1970s, didn't have ED glass, but then there was a version that did, and that was soon upgraded from AI to AIS. Then in the 1980s was the first autofocus version, which came out with the Nikon F4 and other original autofocus cameras, but this one had a plastic body and wasn't very popular. This was then upgraded to the cosmetic design you see now, which was later on updated to AFD, which is a small upgrade, which gives focus distance information for flash metering and metering purposes. And the upgrade meant, from the original AF version, replace the plastic body with this rather handsome crinkle finished metal barrel and metal built-in lens hood. The only external plastic piece is the focus collar and the the aperture collar. I'm not sure what the nameplate is made out of. I think it is metal, but it could be plastic, it doesn't really matter. And of course the window for the focus distance gauge. Because it's an ED lens, these are very sensitive to temperature changes, and so the autofocus scale goes past infinity, because you can never guarantee what the particular focus distance will be. So this is only a guide. It does have a distance aperture depth of field scale, but it is quite limited, because a long lens has quite a limited depth of field. The lens came with a Kenko filter, which I leave on there generally for protection purposes. Even though it's used, it is essentially in excellent cosmetic condition with no marks on the glass. Now, the ED element is the second element. I believe this type of glass is softer than usual glass, and so it's generally not used for the front element, but this lens uses it for the second element, which is almost as big, and that's where that kind of glass matters. A lot of newer Nikon lenses, even very cheap ones, have ED glass in a very small element, and it's not really very effective. So it is very well made. As I say, it's made of metal. It makes it a little bit heavier, but it makes it very robust, especially compared to lots of modern plastic lenses. Of course, it has a metal lens mount, as one would demand at this kind of price. You can see it has the original Nikon AF contacts without the AFS additional ones, and it has, which is not the case on newer Nikon lenses, an aperture scale. This means it can be used with essentially any Nikon camera, including manual focus ones, because that's how you set the aperture on a manual focus camera. Newer cameras from the 1990s onwards require you to set this to the minimum aperture, in this case f22, which is marked in orange as it is on AIS lenses, because this is also an AIS lens, so that they can be set, the aperture can be set from the camera body. I think on some more expensive cameras you can choose to set the aperture with the aperture ring, but I find it easier just to use the camera body. I think my D610 can do that, but I've never tried because it's something I don't really need. This is not an AFS lens. This is a major difference. As you can see, it has a small gear which goes into the camera. Now this means that some of the cheaper cameras, such as the beginning with the D40, I think, cannot autofocus with this lens, which is a bit of a disappointment, because they don't have the internal motors that are needed to drive that gear. Now, because it's not AFS, it means there's no motor in the lens, and it focuses using the focus motor in the camera. Makes it a little bit noisier and possibly a little bit slower. It is slower on my F80 and D80, but it's not much slower on my D610, but it has very powerful autofocus motor, so that is why. One advantage of this older type of lens from Nikon is that you can override the manual focus on the lens by flicking this switch and turning it. Other non-AFS type AF lenses from Nikon, you can't just grab the focus ring and turn it, because that will damage the it'll damage the camera possibly and twist off that gear. This is the case with this type of lens, and you have to remember to switch off the switch on the camera before you can turn this, but it does allow switching it to automatic means that it doesn't turn, which means you aren't tempted to turn it and it doesn't get turned by accident, it prevents it from damage. If you set the camera to manual, if you throw the switch to M and remember to throw the camera switch to M as well, it becomes a properly damped manual focus lens. A lot of autofocus lenses, like my 50mm AFD, has quite a loose focus ring, but this one has a very well damped one. It would be a pleasure to use on a manual focus camera. Now, this is of course being designed for film cameras, an AF. This is a FX format lens, it will be called now, and 100mm FX lens when attached to a DX camera will give you a field of view equivalent to 270mm, which actually is close to a 300mm f2.8 on a film camera or an FX camera. So on a DX camera this would be quite an excellent, very compact 300mm equivalent lens at f2.8. Except it wouldn't be AFS, it is still quite a long lens and quite a small compact package which you can hold in quite easily handhold in good light conditions. It is f2.8, which is very fast. The equivalent AFS lens is the 80 to 200mm zoom, or 70 to 200mm zoom, which has just been released in an F4 version, which is less expensive than the f2.8 version, but it's still quite a bit larger than this. Although it does give you the flexibility of the zoom, it is heavier, it is larger, but I think it does have the option for a tripod collar, which is something that this doesn't have, but it isn't as big. It does become a bit front heavy when you use it on a a tripod or on a monopod, as I have used it. So I think that's all there is to say, except that this is now quite an old lens. It came out in the 1990s, and Nikon are in the process of upgrading their fixed focus lenses. This is still available new, but I would expect it in the not too distant future to be upgraded to AFS and probably VR, which is vibration reduction, which most long lenses from Nikon tend to have. In the process it will lose the aperture ring and become G lens, and will probably also have a rose seal on the lens mount, which is more important with digital cameras because it's much more of a problem getting dust on the sensor of a digital camera when you change lenses than you would on a film camera, which is what this is designed for. If you get dust on a film camera, it's only on one frame. On a digital camera it can stay there until you have it cleaned off. So bear in mind that this may well get upgraded within the next few years. However, that upgraded version will, as I say, not be compatible with old cameras. It will have additional features like VR, so it will be more expensive, and unless it is even more expensive, equivalent to something like the 85mm 1.4 or 24mm 1.4, it will be a very expensive lens, or it will be a bit more plasticky than this one is. This is a very well made lens indeed. It also comes with the leather lens case, which I will demonstrate in a moment. That is unlikely to be the case for an updated version. So if you use an older camera, if you still use film cameras like I do sometimes, this is certainly worth getting now. But if you are more interested in features like VR, it might be better to either go for one of the zoom lenses or wait and see if this gets upgraded in the near future, which I would say is not certain, but certainly is likely to happen. So now I will show you some examples I've taken both in video and still on my D610, and also have a look at the other parts, such as the case, the box, the instructions and other accessories. I just wanted to demonstrate that this lens's aperture blades are exposed at the back of the lens. There's no lens element behind them as there usually is, which means that this is potentially susceptible to getting dust or other foreign bodies on the aperture blades. But if you're careful with changing lenses, as you always should be if you're using a digital SLR, that shouldn't be much of a problem, although it will need the rear lens cap fitted when it's not in use, just to avoid any problems with the oil getting dried up or anything like that. Okay, this is to demonstrate the lens case, which comes with the lens new. Obviously if you get it used, it may or may not come with it. Obviously it will be described, or it should be described in the description if it does or not. You can always ask. I think it's quite expensive to buy it separately. I wouldn't bother if the lens didn't come with one to buy one. It's still very useful to keep it in storage. It isn't really useful for transport and use, but it's an excellent way of storing it. It comes with a small strap to attach to these rings, but I haven't used that. It simply opens up like this. The lens fits end down, and it will fit with one filter in place. When it was in storage with the filter in place, it did leave the imprint of the lens rear lens cap inside the top foam, but it's not a problem. It is made of real leather in Japan, and it has a nice red foam lining. So this is a very old-fashioned type of lens case, and it's very good. It's a Nikon CL38. This is the box which my nearly new lens came with. This is the new type of box. It says Nikkor on it and has the focal length printed on it in large letters. Because this is a nearly new lens, the box isn't in perfect condition, though it's in quite good condition. It has some marks and a bit of tape on it, but that's not a big deal. It has a serial number, and it has a little bit of damage on the side here, but that's fine. If we open it up, only other thing of interest is the instructions, which are obviously multilingual, standard Nikon lens instructions with parts breakdown and details of maintenance and details of depth of field and reproduction ratios as well, I think. So this is a very standard Nikon lens instructions. Okay, so here are some image examples. Obviously with the compression of the video in 1080p resolution, it doesn't show it at its best, but you can see in this image that there is quite a lot of sharpness and good colour reproduction in the image. This is an example of the image quality in out of focus areas, which is known by the Japanese word bokeh. You can see that it's quite soft and there isn't too much sharp edges in the circles of confusion, so I think this is quite good. Obviously it's quite a long lens, so the depth of field and wide aperture is quite narrow. This is an attempt to get a 100% image, even though it's still compressed in the video. It's roughly 100% 1080p resolution, and you can see that the sharpness holds up very well indeed. And you can also see on the reflection on the car there is a nice multi-pointed star caused by the, I think it's a 7-bladed aperture, it might be a 9-bladed aperture, I'll have to check. Here are some pictures of a heron, which I happen to see. Obviously it's not really long enough for wildlife, but it does allow you to get close enough to a larger bird such as this to get pictures if they are not too frightened of people. This is another example of an attempt to get a 100% crop on the video. Obviously it's still compressed, but you can see the excellent sharpness we're getting in the feathers of the heron and the heron's eye. I think I just about managed to focus on the heron's eye, so I think this is quite a good example of what this lens is capable of. So a few days ago I took the lens on a monopod for the first time down to Aberdeen harbour. It was quite a rough day, but there was some good light, so I managed to get some good pictures of some ships coming in and out of the harbour. I didn't take a tripod because I wanted to be able to recompose quite quickly as the ships moved. And it is still a bit shaky in places. This is obviously a still, and you can see how sharp it is. But I think generally, even though it doesn't have a tripod collar on the lens, it's still quite well suited to a monopod. Okay, so here we see on video the pilot boat going out to put the pilot on the green ship you can see in the distance, and the red ship, I can't pronounce his name, the number 7, is coming in into the harbour. And you can see that the monopod isn't quite as steady as the tripod would be, but it is much steadier than trying to handhold this lens. There is a bit of wind which isn't helping with the steadiness of the tripod. You'll also notice that the lens is refocusing quite often, and that is a limitation of my being able to use the autofocus options on the D610. I still need some practice in doing that because it is quite difficult, and you can see there that it's gone out of focus and back in. I'm still having difficulty focusing on moving objects in video is quite perfect, and I'm not sure if that is a limitation of my handling of the camera or the camera itself. You can also hear quite a lot of wind noise, and that's because I wasn't using my microphone because I'd forgotten it. You can also hear quite a lot of focusing noise on the lens, and that is a limitation of DSLR video modes in general. There is a lot more lens noise than you get with a camcorder, which tends to have silent focusing, but that's a limitation of DSLRs in general. This is another 100% crop
from an image. Again, it's compressed in video, but you can see how sharp the lens is, even for quite distant objects. There is a bit of heat haze coming onto the tanker. You can see in the distance, but you can see it's sharp. You can almost read the name. It's limited only by the resolution of the camera, which is about 24 megapixels full frame in this case. Okay, so the green ship has a pilot aboard, and now it's coming into Aberdeen harbour. You can see how rough the sea is because it's moving quite a bit up and down. It's coming in now past the breakwater, so it'll stop moving quite as much in a moment. You can see the lens is still trying to focus and refocus again, which is a limitation by my technique rather than the lens. You can see the quality of the image is very good indeed.
So just some concluding remarks. I'd say that this, if you are in need of a medium to long telephoto lens from Nikon, and you aren't the kind of person who requires AFS or VR for the kind of photography that you do, then this certainly is a very useful lens. I would say it's excellent in terms of its picture quality and its mechanical construction. It could not be better in those cases. Its handling limitation is only in the manual focus switch over, which requires you to change the camera switch and the lens switch, and you have to remember to set the aperture to the minimum. But in general, not being a zoom lens means that it is easy to use. It has a built-in lens hood, which is always good. So yes, I would say it is an excellent lens, and as long as you don't need AFS or VR, and unless you want to go for one of the zooms or wait and see if this is upgraded, then this is the lens for you.